Hi guys. The easiest way to explain PandaBed, we're like an Asian Airbnb. We differentiate by creating matching features on our website that allows Asians to find homes of other Asians. We are only covering Asia Pacific, including Australia. So we don't list any rooms in Europe or the US like some of the global platforms such as Roomorama and Airbnb. Yeah.
I'm intrigued. Everybody I meet in the sharing economy usually has some seminal story about how they actually got into it. You guys could probably be brokers or, working for large companies. You guys decided to take this route. Was there a specific occasion or time, or when did the pin drop that said, I have to launch this thing?
Does it work? Okay, great. I used to work in finance. I was miserable. I wanted to start something different, and I think the reason why I started Roomorama is because I used to travel a lot, and my apartment would sit empty for a few days or weeks. So I saw a necessity in renting out my apartment in a more effective way, and that's how I got started.
My story is not too different. I also work in finance.
There you go.
What is it with finance people and using under-leveraged resource for wealth?
Yield maximization, right? But I think '08 also played a role. But for me, I think fundamentally it went a lot further back to '01 because my other co-founder of PandaBed, we actually met in Los Angeles in 2001, and fellow Singaporeans, we bonded over travel. As students, we had no money to travel, and we traveled using informal networks that today is Airbnb and Roomorama. So that's how we originally bonded, and then fast forward 10 years later, we started this company.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I've obviously been educated this whole trip in terms of the different mentality between Asia Pacific and where I'm from, Toronto. Maybe you can lend some insights, because I know we've seen Airbnb up quite a lot today in terms of an example around sharing economy, but what is the specific mentality around sharing economy in Asia? Is there particular sensitivities or something around that?
Well, we started the business in the States and moved to Europe, and then the last continent we reached out to was Asia. So we've seen the difference. I think the Asian market is not as receptive as the European and US market yet. I'm not saying that it won't be. I believe it will be, and that's why we're here.
Yeah.
I think it's a matter of time. I think that the idea of opening up your property to a foreigner or to a stranger is still quite odd, and that's why I was mentioning before in the presentation that education plays a very important role, way more than Europe or US, where this concept has been received very well, and probably through word of mouth you can just spread the word around. Whereas for Asia, it will still take quite some time.
Is there like a tipping point here where if there's just enough people that know about this or have used it, all of a sudden everybody knows about it? It's like the old example of having a fax machine and it being useless until enough people have it. Almost like our previous presentation where the app where somebody at least needs to have web and then everybody around them needs to. Is there an effect like that?
I think it's a matter of knowing the concept, but also I still have concerns whether the full sharing concept will be as effective and preponderant as it's been in the US or Europe. The reason being, it's also a cultural issue. If you think about Singapore, for example, how many people do have a accommodation that is available for foreigners, for travelers on a temporary basis? How many Asians are willing to open their space to somebody they don't know, and vice versa, to go at somebody else's place? I'm not saying that it's not going to happen. It's happening already. All I'm saying that it's going to take quite some time before we get to that point.
We just do a quick poll here. How many people, hands up if you're from Singapore here, hands up. Okay, now keep them up, keep them up. All right, so I'm seeing about 30 hands. How many of you would open your home up to somebody in a sharing sense, either through one of these services? Keep your hands up if you're interested. Okay, so we lost half, all right. Anybody want to just chime in on, the ones that put your hands down, why? What's the reason? No space? Can't fit another person in? Okay. And do you think that's particular to, you know, the Asian mentality, or is it just a personal opinion? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yep. What about your sentiment here?
Yeah, I mean, you know, Federico's presentation talked about education, and you know, I completely agree with that, because the bottleneck in terms of accelerating sharing in Asia is not technology, right? The technology is all available to do it tomorrow if you open up your mind to do it, right? So the technology is available. The bottleneck is actually in the thinking, and I think thinking takes a long time. You know, it's a generational change. And I think if you look at how new ideas are created and how they travel through different parts of the world, they tend to be created in the West and take generations to travel to the East, right? So I think the quicker that the West adopts sharing and you know, peer-to-peer, I think the quicker Asia will adopt it, because we, you know, as Asians, we draw our point of reference also from the West to a very large extent. And yeah, so I think the education part plays a big role.
Now I know I don't think you guys were you here yesterday for Jeremiah's talk? Okay, so I mean he set up you guys very well. I mean I think we all walk out of here as sharing economy kind of converts, I guess. He showed, there was one slide though where he showed Marriott on a particular house or whatever, and he's saying, look, this is the future where big hotel chains will become involved. I just got an email yesterday, strangely enough, from Airbnb where they're setting up their European headquarters in Ireland. How do you operate, and this could be learning for anybody that's operating a platform here in Asia, how do you operate in a global sense when, you know, you're taking the strategy of global, you're specifically focusing on Asia? Is there a way to compete in a marketplace that's increasingly becoming borderless and global?
I believe there is. By defining your own niche, that's what we're trying to do. I mentioned before, we are an online marketplace for professionally short-term accommodations, and by that, I mean we have a different way to look at inventory that we aggregate on the site. Instead of working on a one-to-one basis with the individual owners, what we normally do, we work with the big software corporations that the big property managers use to manage their inventory, and we do a full integration of their database, and we synchronize the two parties. So we are very happy to hear that companies like Marriott are willing to come in with that type of inventory because we have the technology in place to integrate the inventory and to synchronize with our platform. That's exactly what I'd like to hear.
So we're going to see Raffles Roomorama soon as an extension?
You can already see Raffles on Roomorama.
Oh my lord, I predicted that.
Joking. But you can see that type of inventory already.
Interesting. Any thoughts from your standpoint? Because you've taken a very different approach in terms of focusing on Asia. And I think we had a brief discussion about, you know, Epi's first slide of this conference was that at least half the world lives in this very small, concentrated universe. So even if 2% of people get it, that's a big 2%. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, it's a very motherhood statement, but any business that's looking to conquer Asia, you need to use a microscope. Every country is very different. Even within China, right? You cannot look at China as one country. Every state has to be looked at as an individual country or market. So I think the quick answer is that to conquer Asia, you need to be able to go deep, be very granular, and you know, recognize that you're dealing with many, many markets, not just one market like North America or Europe.
Yeah.
I completely agree.
And we also had a great presentation yesterday by Sangeet right at the end talking about platforms. I mean, you guys both operate platforms. I'm just curious in this space, is it easier to get homes on the site? Is it easier to get purchasers on your site? And is the toughest part maybe having interactions between the two? Like his whole thing was you almost need both, and then you need a good seamless environment between the two. What's the real pressure point in terms of, you know, becoming a thriving business in this space?
I think if you're a peer-to-peer website, it's probably more difficult to find inventory.
Okay.
If you are B2C, it's probably more difficult to find the right audience because you're very targeted to the type of users that you are reaching out to.
You agree?
I agree. Yeah.
That's
I know
that's
we're going to
good.
get out here for dinner real quick. I got one more question, then let's open it up to the audience. This is usually an awkward question. I even read an article today where 6 San Francisco hardcore sharing economy people kind of did the humana. I don't know how to answer this. So you brought up the whole idea of the legalities, the tax implications, the regulatory implications of doing what you're trying to do. I'm a bit of a libertarian, so I love what you're trying to do. There are other people out there that say, oh my lord, hotel, you have to pay tax and you have to, so is there an either ethical or legal obligation that you're married to or have a philosophy on?
I'll go. I mean, I guess it comes back, in my opinion, right? I may be totally wrong on this, but I think it comes back to our world, your individual worldview, right? If you see the world, like a harsh place, right? Like your neighbor is trying to get you arrested, and you have to fight for yourself, and if you see the world that way, I think you'll respond to P2P and sharing economy in a negative way. But if you have a win-win philosophy, right? So I can win, you can win, and we can grow together. Then I think all of a sudden you become very much more receptive to the sharing economy. So but how then which begs the next question, which is how do you foster win-win? Some people they rely on religion. Some people rely on positive thinking, but that's another conversation altogether.
Yeah. Any thoughts on that? I know this is particularly sensitive in San Francisco and New York, where, but rents are so high there that it's all of a sudden people are actually renting out homes so they can rent it out again through Airbnb or whatever. Any thoughts?
Like you, I'm a libertarian. I am actually very happy that there's a huge site like Airbnb that has got so much funding and has got the gunpowder to attack those big lobbies and maybe change the regulations in cities like New York or San Francisco. Said so, we try to abide by the local laws as much as we can. One more reason why we go after the professionally managed properties is because we work with properties that have a contract in place and they have the authorization to rent on a short-term basis. That makes it easier for us in the long term. We also have some peer-to-peer inventory, but moving forward, the transition that we're making is to get as much professionally managed inventory as possible.
Interesting. Questions, crowd? Let's let down our hair.
Hello. Okay. Question. There are 2 questions from me. My name is Federico from Rent Tycoons. So one question for Federico. You actually in your slide you actually have the Google Glass, the mobile technology that you said that will enhance the sharing economy. Can you elaborate more on that, and how will Google Glass allow us to share more? That's one question. The second thing is that you said that if Marriott gonna list their rooms on like one of the platforms, what will make them want to list their rooms there if they can build their own platforms, then compete with Airbnb or Roomorama?
In response to your first question, that was just maybe wasn't the right picture. I just wanted to show how projected in the future we are in terms of accessibility to internet, whether it's a watch or glasses or a mobile device. The idea is that we are connected with the world, and the point that I was trying to make is that consumption will be affected by us being wired up 24/7. E-commerce will benefit from that because not only will be able to see, access stuff, touch stuff, we want to buy it right away. And I think having the technology in place will make that possible. With regard to the second question, effectively you can already see properties provided by Marriott on hotel websites. So I don't see why us being an aggregator for short-term accommodations, non-hotel short-term accommodation, I don't see why they would not want to work with us at some point.
So instead of building their own, you think it's almost a better approach if they just work collaboratively with you?
Yeah. We actually work with companies similar to Marriott already.
So I think Jeremiah actually the other day thought the jury was out in terms of if Marriott tried to do their own thing. Mm-hmm. Would it succeed? Would it fail? Would it be somewhere in between? What's your prognostication?
it's difficult to say. They definitely have the resources. I cannot predict what kind of approach they will have. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Thoughts on that question?
But I would be very happy to work with them. True.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to forecast how industries will change, but I think Jeremiah presented a very good case that I like because it sounds like it's win-win as well. But I think what Jeremiah was saying was not necessary to list the Marriott rooms on the P2P platforms, but to use their sort of accreditation or brand name to say that, okay, this is a Marriott verified room.
Right.
I think that's what he was getting at. I think Jeremiah's idea was spot on.
So it's kind of like powered by Marriott as opposed to managed by Marriott.
Exactly. Yeah.
We have a question over here.
I guess one of the things that was successful for Airbnb is the social aspect to what they're doing in the United States. And I was just curious how that will play out in Asia with what you guys are doing and where you see the trust building if social media isn't as prevalent here as it is in the United States.
Asians are very social, right? Yeah, I mean, it's it is a very important factor, but I think that the way that you need to, as a business, to execute to get it to work, to get social to work correctly for you is different, right? Because you can't just have like Facebook integration, Facebook login or whatever. You need to go deeper. You need to look at what social networks are being used in Indo, in China, in Taiwan. Like, there was a slide up there that showed top apps, right? And I noticed in Taiwan, WhatsApp wasn't even in the top 10, right? So you're looking at very different markets, but yeah, I think social is going to be a big thing, but you need to, go very deep. You need to be very granular.
I think for Asia, you still need to rely on the endorsement by the media, whether that comes from social network or from online publication or offline publication, I'm not sure yet. Like you said before, every country in Asia is different, but I think we're still at a very pioneering stage of this industry in the region. And I think a lot of resources will have to be implemented to, one more time, educate the public in that sense.
You mentioned it's pioneering. I don't even know if we would have been talking about this particular subsegment of crowdsourcing 2 years ago. It's certainly, I'm sure if I look at any
Everything has
Google...
changed so rapidly.
Yeah, so I want you to blow our audience's mind. 2 years from now, we're sitting on the exact same panel. What's like the best thing that could have possibly happened, and like what's going to blow our mind in terms of what you're going to tell us this industry is going to look like in 2 years? Wow. I loved your little like line extended. What was that again? Mr. B&B for gay friendly. Like are there various different ones?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I said before, I think there will be more verticals for a validated business. If you look at Asia, it's all about like a validated concept in the West, like I said before, that are being replicated here. He helps to get that validation from the West. I think the mentality is changing here, the attitude is changing here. You see a lot of new stuff blossoming in Asia as well. It's very difficult to predict what happened because I would have never predicted 5 years ago that this would be the situation. 5 years after, you see so many peer-to-peer sites blossoming like flowers. But I think, these are the three areas in which the travel will be affected. Okay. I couldn't be more specific, to be honest, because I cannot think of anything else.
I can't predict the future, but I can tell you what my wish list is. If 2 years from now, 3 years from now, you sit in a taxi or you walk into a coffee shop in the Singapore heartlands, and you just talk to the uncle across the table, and he tells you that he has booked on your website, or he knows what peer-to-peer is, and he prefers peer-to-peer. That would be a wish. I think not just for myself, but for the industry as well.
I'm here for actually an extra day than I considered, so I'm going to try like one of your services out here. So
Cool.
I will do the autobiographical, and maybe we'll do a blog post after. This will be our post brief on this. We got about 2 minutes left. People are either thirsty, hungry, or just plain restless here. Any last words to leave with our audience? Day 2. This is a privileged position. We've had about 15 presentations today. You get to close it out. Yeah.
Well, I had 20 minutes to speak, so I think I said what I wanted to say today. But I think the lesson from all of this today is that you want to be receptive to new ideas, especially when it comes to travel. There's a lot of new concept coming out, and you might want to experience new stuff from a new perspective. You want to you might want to how can I say that? You might want to look travel like you've never done it before, and I think there's a lot of stuff coming up right now, and go and try it out.
And I'll just say what he just said in different words. I think we're at an age where there's so many new things coming out, and I really encourage you guys to just get out of your comfort zone and try something new.
Great.
Who has not tried one of their services before and might try it right after this present or sometime?
You should.
Excellent. See?
Great.
Wow, this is business development right here. It's happening.
Awesome.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.